Invictus by Kristin Brancheau. Invictus is a journey of President Mandela, the first democratic president of South Africa, and the challenges he faces in trying to unite the black and white people after apartheid. The main characters in the story are the police officers who protect him, the rugby captain Francois Pienaar, and his confidants and cabinet members. President Mandela, facing crises of food supply, housing, jobs, crime rates, and finances, determined that he needed to find a way to unite the people in order to start working on these issues. He recognized that in order to get them working together, they have to have a common goal. One polarizing subject is Springbok, the South African rugby team, which symbolized apartheid to many people. Black people played soccer and white people played rugby. Mandela felt that if they won the World Cup, it would bring the races together. This was not a small feat, as the team wasn't very good. During the course of this movie, you see the interactions between Mandela's police group and the ones who worked for the previous president, and how they form a united team. The relationship that is built between Francois and Mandela is a powerful story, and the way relationships between the black and white people grow and develop are an interesting experience in change management. At the end of the movie, the Springbok win the World Cup, and it shows everyone waving the same flag, singing the same song, and hugging each other, black and white. There is no separation between the races. All of this came about because there was a common goal in President Mandela's vision. The first movie clip we are going to view is the interaction between Jason Stabalala, the head of Mandela's current security group, the new security officers who have been assigned to the group, and President Mandela. Jason is the head of security for Mandela and finds out that he is being assigned 4 of the officers that worked for the previous president. Let's take a look.
You took to Brenda on it?
Yes, yesterday. Ah, that must be Jason with the schedule. Come in, beautiful.
As you can see from this video, Mandela has a lot of trust with Jason, joking with him, asking if he is in trouble with the police. However, he doesn't tolerate Jason's behavior and reminds him that he requested this extra help and is fulfilling that request. This demonstrates Mandela's ability to put people together with boundaries, but allow them to work out their differences. Mandela knew he had to provide the framework for them, but allow them to work out their differences. The relationship between the two special branch police groups is an interesting example of how a team can gain trust and become united under one mission. They are first to work together, and Jason is not the strongest leader. He can be very immature, as seen in the video clip, stomping into Mandela's office, throwing the schedule down, and talking unprofessionally to his colleagues. But the viewer sees him develop and learn from the team. Jason was not team-oriented and thought it was his job to keep the president safe. It was his colleague who actually taught him that it was a team function to do it. Jason was more of a dictator type and had to learn the importance of being a team player. By the end of the movie, they are playing rugby together and talking in terms of we versus us and them. They had become a functioning team, operating under one mission. President Mandela and the captain of the rugby team, Francois Pienaar, develop a strong relationship, with Mandela mentoring him. They have a common mission, for the rugby team to win the World Cup, even if it is for different reasons. The second video we are going to look at is the conversation that Mandela and Francois have over tea. Mandela is very strategic in every conversation and interaction he has. This is demonstrated in this conversation they have about leadership.
What is your philosophy on leadership? How do you inspire your team to do their best?
By example. I've always thought to lead by example, sir.
But that is right. That is exactly right. But how to get them to be better than they think they can be? That is very difficult, I find. Inspiration, perhaps. How do we inspire ourselves to greatness when nothing less will do? How do we inspire everyone around us? I sometimes think it is by using the work of others. On Robben Island, when things got very bad, I found inspiration in a poem.
A poem?
A Victorian poem. Just words, but they helped me to stand when all I wanted to do was to lie down. But you didn't come all this way to hear an old man talk about things that make no sense.
No, please, Mr. President. It makes complete sense to me. On the day of a big match, say a test, in the bus on the way to the stadium, nobody talks.
Ah, yes. They're all preparing.
Right. But when I think we're ready, I have the bus driver put on a song. Something I've chosen, one we all know. And we listen to the words together. And it helps.
I remember when I was invited to the 1992 Olympics in Barcelona. Everybody in the stadium greeted me with a song. At the time, the future, our future, seemed very bleak. But to hear that song in the voices of people from all over our planet made me proud to be South African. It inspired me to come home and do better. It allowed me to expect more of myself.
May I ask, what was the song, sir?
Well, it was in Posisikilele, Africa. A very inspiring song. We need inspiration, Francois. Because in order to build our nation, we must all exceed our own expectations.
You see Francois Pinard develop as a leader throughout their journey together. He tries to get his team thinking about working better together and leads by example. However, he struggles at times. In one scene, he brings out the words to the new national anthem and tells them they should all learn it. He gets a lot of pushback from the group, with them criticizing it and him, and some end up crumbling it up. The new national anthem represents that the country is changing and they don't want it to change. They make prejudiced comments about it being in a different language and not understanding it. Pinard just turns around and leaves, dejected. Perhaps planting the seed is all he was able to do at that time, or he might have known his crew enough to know he couldn't force them into anything, and they had to make their own decisions. By the World Cup, the majority of the players are singing it. Later in the movie, he takes them on a trip to the jail where Mandela lived and worked for 27 years. You can see Pinard struggling with the sacrifices Mandela made and is amazed at how he's not bitter and full of hate for white people. Pinard shows good leadership qualities by setting the direction, taking risks, encouraging people, and having his eyes on the future. One other example of Mandela's strong leadership was an incident with the South African athletic community. Communication was very important to him, and his staff was always updating him on current happenings. He was in the middle of another meeting and heard that this committee had voted to break up the Springbok team, removing their team colors, motto, name, and everything that represented them. As a good leader, he tries to communicate to them his mission and vision. He doesn't try and overrule their decision, but convince them that their view is short-sighted. Here is the clip.
I am aware of your earlier vote. I am aware that it was unanimous. Nonetheless, I believe we should restore the Springboks. Restore their name, their emblem, and their colors immediately. Our enemy is no longer the Afrikaner. They are our fellow South Africans, our partners in democracy. And they treasure Springbok rugby. If we take that away, we lose them. I know. All of the things they denied us. But this is no time to celebrate petty revenge. This is the time to build our nation. You elected me your leader. Let me lead you now.
President Mandela was a change agent for an entire country. Everything he did was strategic and thought out. In our course, we have learned a lot about collaboration and team effort. Mandela realized the importance of collaborating with people and did an effective job of putting the right people together. One of his core beliefs was the power of relationships with people. One of the first things he does is bring his entire staff together for a meeting. He tells them that he needs their help and that he expects them to do their work to the best of their abilities, and he will do the same. He is setting his expectations right at the very beginning and starting to build and maintain trust. One of the first headlines about him reads, "He can win an election, but can he run a country?" He acknowledges the validity of this question. He is not arrogant and full of himself and admits his struggles freely. Another example of his true leadership qualities was when he went to his first rugby match as president and is booed by some of the white people. He moves along as though everyone is clapping for him. Much to his police protection's chagrin, he goes and shakes hands with many people in the crowd. He is very genuine and shows that he cares. His commitment to developing relationships with people is very evident in this situation and many others. President Mandela realizes the importance of having a good team around him and surrounds himself with people he trusts, who challenge him. They protect him and worry about him as he makes a lot of personal sacrifices. He works very long hours, doesn't sleep very much, and is constantly putting his life at risk by insisting on making personal contacts with people. He gives part of his salary to charity because he feels that it is too much. One area of President Mandela's life that is not going well is his relationship with his family. He walks every morning, and each day he asks his police protection how their families are, calling them by name. Again, this demonstrates the personal connection he has to people and shows why they are loyal and protective to him. One of the new officers asks how his family is, and Mandela says, "I have 43 million family members," and looking sad tells them he is not going to walk today. After he leaves, his officer takes the new one to task, telling him that they never ask how his family is. This lack of communication amongst the two groups within his special branch is clear in this example. It also points out that even strong leaders are not perfect and struggle in their relationships with people. Mandela puts the greater good in front of his personal life, and this lack of balance shows the painful trade-offs he makes. He is estranged from his wife and children. In one scene where his daughter says something about not being able to forgive the white people and not understanding how he can, he says that she criticizes without understanding. She seeks only to address her personal feelings, and that is selfish thinking. It does not serve the nation. He has no tolerance for people. Questions to ponder. Number 1. President Mandela didn't have a good relationship with his family. Why didn't he use his leadership skills to rebuild these relationships? Number 2. What do you think would have happened if they lost the World Cup? And number 3. Do you think focusing on rugby was the correct approach to take?